Hello and welcome to another episode of Odds and Ends. In this episode, talk about the domestication of the Muscat grape, or Vitis rotundifolia. This was the first American grape to be specifically cultivated. In the early days, Muscat pie was a very popular item within the United States. And in modern times in southern United States, it's a primary staple fruit crop within that region, especially within Mississippi and North Carolina. We'll start off with the botanical background of the species. Let's begin. For the longest time, the Vitis genus, which includes all grapes, have been subdivided into two separate branches. The U. Vitis branch, which includes bunching grapes, which include the common table grape, and some of the wild species, and the Muscadinea grapes, also known as berry grapes, in which the berries exist in more looser colonies than the bunches found in common grapes. The berry grapes may be the progenitor of what we now know as the common table grapes, and as such may be the oldest form of this genus. The most common species cultivated within this general group of the genus is the Muscat grape. They have the old name of bullet grapes due to the light bronze-colored fruit found in the wild. The natural range of the species ranges between Florida and Mississippi. The wild muscat is dioecious in nature, much like all wild grapes. This means that it has specific male plants and specific female plants. The male grapes produce the pollen and the female grapes produce the fruit and receive the pollen. The early muscat cultivars have been harvested from the wild since the early Europeans reached North America, and is first noted to be harvested by Europeans in 1565 through writings of Spanish missionaries within Florida. These wild grapes have been cultivated in vineyards since the mid-18th century, and the first cultivars were simply selections from the wild, and by 1920 there's 35 to 40 named cultivars, although only a few were grown extensively within a commercial setting. These were Hopkins, Flowers, James, Memory, Mish, and Scrumptian, as well as Thomas. All early cultivars were females, and wild males need to be planted next to them in order to produce fruit. The first cultivar bred within North America was Scuppernong, and was the dominant cultivar during the mid-18th century up until 1947. The name was given by Sir Walter Raleigh and his colony when they landed within what became known as Roanoke Island. Its first name was called Big White, before being renamed Scuppernong, named after a lake, also called Strupperdong, which is a mispronunciation of Aspadong, an Algonquin Aboriginal word for place of the sweet bay plant, which is also found abundantly along this river. This plant was selected due to the fact you can neglect it and it'll still produce a lot of berries, and is suitable for use in making wine and table grapes. The first breeding programs began in 1907 and were initiated by Mr. Willard N.C. and Dr. Det Chien in 1917 in a cooperative effort between the USDA and North Carolina State University, an alliance that remains strong to this day within this region, and it continues up until this day. The breeding program was first initiated in 1917 in North Carolina before being moved to Mississippi, where it continued in 1941 to 1965. By Dr. N.H. Loomis. These experiments involve crossbreeding muscat grapes with common grapes. The apex of this experimentation was the Hunt cultivar. The fruit quality and yield had improved, but still required other pollinators and could not self-pollinate. But this became the basis for a great many other breeding programs, which eventually led to the first cultivars that could self-pollinate to be released in 1948. The experiments of combining the durability of the muscat with the fruit quality of common table grapes together has been a long-term research project within the USDA and remains as such to this day. The initial hybrids were unstable due to unequal chromosome numbers within both species. Most of the original hybrids were sterile, but a few had low fertility. These were often back-crossed back into initial parents such as common table grapes or muscat grapes, with many of the original ones being used predominantly as rootstocks. Next we'll cover the production history. The muscat industry has been tied to the muscat wine industry. In 1810, there was a big boom in Muscat wine made from Grape Muscat grapes, and the industry continued to grow up to 243 hectares in North Carolina until Prohibition. Around 60% of all muscats were used for wine production up until that point. The most popular wine brand at that time was Virginia Dare, produced by Paul Garrett prior to Prohibition. This wine was initially pure Muscat, but in later years it would be blended with California wine grapes of Vitis vinifera. After a period of Prohibition, the interest in bootleg beer and wine led to a boom in grape production for wine purposes, both in the East and West Coast. This included Muscat grapes. This boom ended in 1926 when grape prices dropped due to overproduction, and went further down thanks to the Great Depression, during which time many vineyards were abandoned. National Prohibition ended in 1932, but Prohibition spirit still lingered on within the South, and the Muscat industry did not rebuild. In 1945, the United States government promoted the use of Muscat fruit and wine production to alleviate poverty, especially considering that tobacco, cotton, and other crops were failing at that time, although it was opposed by Prohibition forces within that region. It would not be until the 1960s where the Muscat population began rebuilding, reaching its apex in 1980. The new breeding programs have also improved the amount of yield you can get out of these cultivars. As such, many of these older cultivars, such as Magnolia and Chambertin, were replaced with new cultivars such as Fry and Carlos. In modern times, 25% of the acreage of grape species consists of Muscat grapes within the United States. And that about covers everything. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. If you really enjoyed it and think you can donate, you can do so at Buy Me a Coffee, link in the description below. Thank you for watching.